What's up YouTube, Daryl here from Z4 Games, and today I am bringing you the winner of the poll, and that is of course Zombies. Now this is utilising the brand new cards we received in Dimension Force, and some of the cards are actually crazy good. I'll also show you the combo that is doing the rounds at the end of the video. You've probably already seen it, but if you haven't, it's all in one place for you. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. With all of that out of the way, we're going to dive head first into this zombie profile. So you start off with triple uni zombie. Now this card is incredibly important, but it is also a very painful Achilles heel. Now what I mean by that is, in theory, apart from when you're sending from your hand to the graveyard, when you go to use this effect to target a face-up monster on the field to either discard a card or to send one from the deck to the graveyard, annoyingly as it isn't cost, it can get ashed. That's not the end of the world, because then you can use this effect in the hand. You've got to be careful of imperms and veilers. But if it resolves, you're in a very good position. Sometimes you do need to arguably kind of consider if you want to play the Solitaire. The Solitaire is just obviously much weaker against something like an Ash Blossom, because you tribute it as cost and you pretty much lose it from there. But it does give you that zombie in the graveyard, so that the uni zombie is set up ready to go. The reason this is so good is this plus any extender can get you into a lot of Hulk plays, but can also get you into other plays for your zombies as well. We are playing triple Necro World Banshee. Now the reason we've gone with this is actually an incredibly important card for the deck. You could put it at 2 if you wanted to, but the reason I've got it at 3 is we have so many ways to get this to the graveyard. The fact that it's a quick effect to get you another zombie world. In this particular version, unless you open up multiple zombie worlds, it's not really too bad to have so many zombie worlds. And what I mean by that is it's great in the Flunder matchup, it's great in a Sword Soul matchup. It can also be quite good in the in the branded matchup as well, because that can obviously give you eternal super body targets, and it can hinder some of their plays if they need to be using a specific type, so like a dragon in the graveyard, specifically to try and get into Dragoon and everything like that. It also gives you a very good matchup against the Tri-Brigade matchup, and of course Flunders, so that's kind of something you want to keep your mind on. Then we've got double Gozuki and his brother Mizuki. So we've got 2s and 2s on this. I was considering 3 and 3. I've kind of cut it to 2 and 2. I'm going to test it out, see how I feel. If I wanted to bump it up, you'd probably cut the Uni and the Necro down. But with the Necros and the Gozukis, it's important that they're non-tuners, because that will come up as you try to get into your brand new Red-Eyed Zombie Dragon Lord. I've then gone with 1 Shiranui Spirit Master, and the reason I've gone with this is because Snow is back. Now the reason it is so important is there are a lot of zombie cards, or a lot of cards in general, that kind of want to be banished. Now what I mean by that, I say a lot, ideally you've got your brand new Mizara, and you've got the brand new Chenjing. Now both of these cards will trigger when they're banished, so will the Spirit Master. So you kind of want to get that ability of getting a level 4 non-tuner to the board, which can be very important. Plus you're then going to get additional advantage by banishing these cards as well. Speaking of, the brand new Mizara gives you the ability that if a zombie monster or monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to banish this card from the hand or graveyard instead. If it is banished from the hand or graveyard, you get to special summon it back in defense, and you can reduce its level by 1, meaning it will no longer be a level 8, but it will be a level 7, which can come up quite importantly throughout the plays. You can only use each effect once per turn. The best thing about this is it's constant. Like, it's constantly going to be a threat that your opponent needs to deal with in the graveyard, and it's quite a nice loop to give you a nice 2800 beta, not to mention a level 8 that can help get you into your level 10s. Then of course your Chenji, which is obviously a much better card in my opinion, and you could play it at multiples if you wanted to. I currently only have 1, but if I was to play this at multiples, I would change the strategy of the deck, and I'd actually resolve around her a lot more. So during the main phase, you get to send a zombie monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and then if this card is banished, you can banish a zombie monster in your graveyard to special summon this card, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. Only use each effect once per turn. Now the reason that is important is, again, it's just looping your resource. It's a level 6 non-tuner, which again comes up with importance when you're looking at stuff like Uni-Zombie. You're actually going to be able to get into your level 10 synchros a lot easier. Then the other boss ones we've got is, of course, the 1 Jacko Bolan and the 1 Doom King Border Roach. Obviously, Jacko Bolan is a free extender. Border Roach is just an incredibly powerful card that is a form of negation as well as a form of banish as well, that sometimes, or some cards, can't really deal with. So it does give you that competitive edge as well. And the fact that it constantly keeps looping itself if there is a field spell in play can be very, very damaging. Then for the tuners, we've got the 1 Glart Bloom, the 1 Mad Mauler, which is the brand new card, and the 1 Plague Spreader Zombie. You should all know what Glart Bloom and Plague Spreader do right now. You could arguably cut this, but the reason I've got this in here is just for a tuner that can loop itself back from the grave. So you go Halley Firebrax, you link off into your link 3, then you bring this guy back and you can continue to make synchro plays. The Mad Mauler is it becomes Plague Spreader Zombie while on the field or in the graveyard, and then if this card is in the graveyard, you get to target a level 6 or higher monster you control, reduce its level by 2, and if you do, special summon this card. Also, the player who summoned it cannot special summon except zombie monsters while this card is face up on the field, or in the monster zone specifically. You can only use each effect once per turn. Now, obviously, that's both a blessing and a curse for the pure fact that it reduces your monster's level by 2, which then means you're only opening up yourself. For example, if you chose Border Rock, you're then looking into a level 6 Synchro, but 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to try and go for something a little bit different. The last of the monsters, we've also got 1 Jet Synchron. Now, you can see that we've got like 4 cards we want to be bringing off of Halley Firebrax. So arguably, this is currently a 42 card deck. You could look at cutting some of these down depending on what you want. The reason we've gone with Jet Synchron is for the pure fact that it is a free discard that you will need in this deck to start setting up your graveyard plays. Ultimately, you can make a decision between one of either of these 3 here and kind of adapt it that way as you see fit. Another card that we're teching in at the moment, so I believe this was in Lord Trent's video, and I kind of like the idea of it at the moment, is 2 Viscera Starfrosts. Now, the reason we've got this in here is if this card is in the hand, you get to target a monster you control with a different type and attribute. So, obviously, it's a warrior, when we shouldn't have any warriors in here, and it's a light, which again, all of the zombies should be darks or earths or fires. So you get to send that card, or destroy that monster, and if you do, special summon this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can make this card gain attack equal to half the original attack or defense of that monster, whichever is highest. Now, obviously, you're not going to use it as a 2100 beta, but you could do if you're pushing for game. The reason this is so good is it can turn a non-tuner into a tuner. It can also turn a negated uni-zombie into a level 6 tuner. Keeping in mind, for example, if you open up Uni-Zombie and you open up Starfrost, and let's say you get a Mizuki to the graveyard and your opponent then negates your Uni-Zombie or stops your Uni-Zombie or anything like that, you can then use Starfrost to tribute off the Uni-Zombie. You've then got Mizuki in the graveyard that can then banish it and bring back the Uni-Zombie, and then of course you've got your Starfrost to go. On top of that as well, if you were to get a free extender to the board and you're like, oh, I need a level 6 tuner, that's when you can like normal summon Mizuki, you've got a monster on the board, and if you're like, alright, I'd rather go for a level 10 Synchro here, you can use Starfrost to tribute off that extender to bring this down, and then you can use Starfrost plus Mizuki to make a level 10, and then you're able to use Mizuki to banish it, and then you can bring back Starfrost if Zombie World is on the board. It's very niche. It is just something that I'm trialing out. Again, it is a flex spot you can take out as well. I'm not completely sold on it, but I'm not completely like dead on it. And what I mean by that is as well, you can probably look at something like Border Rock. So if you wanted to, if you've got Vista Starfrost plus Banshee in the hand, and you've got Border Rock on the board that's already come back from the standby phase, if it's used as effects or anything like that, you can get rid of the Border Rock, you can summon down your Vista Starfrost, normal summon the Necrowell Banshee, synchro into a level 10, and that ideally would lead you to game depending on what you're playing. Then for the final cards, we've got the 1 Fairy Tale Snow. Like I already mentioned this, it's a free level 4 non-tuner that you're constantly going to be able to get advantage from. Not to mention, if you're banishing cards like your Changing and your Spirit Master, you're going to be able to gain back free advantage to push for the board. And its Book of Moon effect can be a very, very powerful disruptor that will save you so many games. The final cards we've got is 2 Bell and 2 Ashes, because you do need some form of hand trap in this deck. We do have a balance of cards that can go first and second, so you can kind of break boards as well as setting up boards and disrupt your opponent. The reason I've gone with 2 and 2 is not only is it great that they're zombies, they're tuners as well, but these are probably the most effective hand traps, bar something like DD Crow maybe instead of the Ghost Bell. That kind of gives you enough options to deal with stuff like Branded in Red, Branded Banishment, and then of course Ash Blossom as well. It's just generically good. A lot of players are playing through Ash Blossom, like 1 is not enough, which is why some people are cutting out hand traps completely. It's quite funny how we go from like a 13 hand trap to a format to like a 2 hand trap format. It really adapts and depends on your local environment, but that's where you can edit this deck as you see fit. So that's it for the mass monster lineup. Moving on to the spells, which again pretty much shares the majority of the deck. So we are playing triple Zombie World. I'm not too sure how I feel about this. Like, you want to see it as early as you possibly can, but then if you see multiples of it early and you've got nothing else to back it up with, it's a dead card. You're already playing 3 Banshee, so the argument is you could probably cut this down to 2, and then what you're doing is you're pushing through your deck in order to get Banshee to the graveyard to get your Zombie World on board. But like I said, it's near enough an instant win sometimes against Flunders. It can also be an instant win in the Tri-Brigade matchup as well, and it can cause a lot of issues in some other decks that they're not so used to as well. We've then got triple Super Poly, so this is another reason, is unlike in a branded matchup where Super Poly may or may not be dead depending on the matchup, if you get a Zombie World, it is 100% live for you. For the pure fact that everything will become zombies, it means your opponent's board, no matter what they put on that board, Winged Beast, whether they put, if they put Worms on the board, if they put Fiends on the board, they'll all end up turning into zombies, and that's where Super Poly can come in for the 1-2 punch cleanup, and then pretty much help you push for game. It's also a very nice thing to keep in mind as well that Zombie World plus Rivalry can be incredibly painful, because as soon as your opponent puts a monster on the board, you flip the Rivalry under Zombie World, it becomes a zombie, they can then no longer summon cards, which won't be zombies, they'll be have to set. We've got 2 talents. Again, this is a card that can come out. It doesn't need to stay. But it's just one of the ones that if I go second, I need that ability to either steal one of my opponent's monsters or draw additional cards to get me to my Super Polys or some of the cards I might be missing. It's also quite good going first as well. So in that example, if Unizombie was to be ashed, if it was to be Veiled, I've then got the ability of activating talents to draw 2 more cards in order to find my extender. As soon as I get that extender on the board, whether it be in the form of Zombie Reborn itself, or Ready Fusion / Instant Fusion, heck, even a Gold Sark or Foolish Burial can do that for you as well. You're then able to continue your combos and make your plays. So obviously Foolish Burial, Gold Sark, Ready Fusions and Instant Fusions are all pretty straightforward. So let's talk about the brand new card, Zombie Reborn. So you target a zombie monster in either graveyard, banish 1 monster with the same name from your deck or extra deck, and if you do, special summon that targeted monster to the field. If this card is in your graveyard, you can shuffle one of your banished zombie monsters back into the deck, and if you do, set this card but banish it when it leaves the field. So that's what's incredibly important as well. So this is where if you wanted to play the Chishin at more than 1, you could do, because this will give you the ability to banish one, and then you get to special summon the one from the deck. You then get to special summon the one that has been banished as well, and that gives you 2 level 6s on the board. The fact that it lets you shuffle back your banished monsters as well can be very, very helpful after Snow has banished them, meaning you can loop them and go again. The last 2 cards we've got is the one fully back to the list, Change of Heart, and the one Called by the Grave. Now again, the Change of Heart can be cut from the deck completely. I'm still a sucker for the good old faithful Shiranui style Swallow Slash, and obviously looking at stuff like the Shiranui Solitaire as well. But with something like Change of Heart, it does give that ability of such a good steal card going second. But you can see that we've got Super Polys and talents to kind of cover that. So it's a card you could take out, it's a card you could leave in. It's like I said, it's giving that balance of this deck to be able to go first or second. So that's it for the spells, that's it for the entire deck as well. Moving on to the extra deck. So we've got a nice balance of 5 links, 5 synchros, and 5 fusions. I'll save the synchros till last because I want to talk about some other alternatives you could use. So for the link cards, we do play, of course, the 1 Link Karibo alongside the 1 Halifibrax, the 1 Savior, not mandatory anymore. You can easily cut this. If I was going to cut it, I'd probably take a second Halifibrax for this particular build because I play so many tuners that multiple Halifibraxes is not a bad thing. We've then got the 1 Vampire Sucker. So basically throughout the combo you'll get to draw twice during your opponent's turn. Not to mention if you're able to bring a zombie back during your turn, you'll be able to replenish the 2-card combo you've already started and then get an additional +1 as well. We've then got the 1 Vampire Fascinator. I really like this card as well. So this is kind of like your higher link monster. So this is something where you can start getting into Vampire Sucker or using Advent Dreadsayer. It's entirely up to you. It's also something you could use with Halifibrax if Zombie World's on the board. So 2 monsters including a zombie monster. If this card is link summoned, you get to target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it, which can be very, very helpful for something like a Mirror Jade. If you wanted to spice it up, considering the Zombie Reborn actually lets you send from your extra deck as well, you could in theory send an Albion, but your opponent would have had to successfully summon it. You then get the ability to special summon it to your field in defense. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombies, which is not an issue for this deck at all. You contribute 1 vampire monster, then target 1 monster your opponent controls and take control of it until the end of this turn, or until the end phase basically. You can only use the effect once per turn, so you've got the ability, if you wanted to tribute your Vampire Sucker and steal one of your opponent's monsters, which is great. You can then use Fascinator and Tribute herself as well. Moving on to the fusions, we'll start off with the Super Poly targets. So I've gone with 2 Draconecro and then the 1 Dracus Tapelio. Entirely up to you. You could play this at 1 if you wanted to, but the reason I wanted this is I wanted the ability to, if I don't have Super Poly, I've got a good target. If I do have, Zombie World, and if I do, I've got another good target, and I want to make sure that it's always live. You could arguably take one of these out, and I'll show you the other options that you have, should you be on a budget restriction, or should you want to be looking at alternative options. I then got 2 of the Albions. So this is the level 2 vanilla tuner that you'll be summoning off of Instant Fusion and you'll be summoning off of Ready Fusion. It's not much more to be said about that, it's just a level 2 tuner. You could play your sea monster of Theseus, but the reason I've not put this in here is because it's actually less useful as a level 5 than this is as a level 2. The level 2 actually gives you a lot of abilities to get you into different synchros, whether it be a level 8 and itself to get you into a level 10, or whether it be a level 4 and a 2 to get you into a level 6. Speaking of the synchros, of course, we've got the 1 Formula Synchron, so this is going to come off the back of your Crystron Halifibrax during your opponent's turn. That will then allow you to synchro during your opponent's turn into some of your boss monsters, which I'll show you in a second. We've then, of course, got the 1 Immortal Dragon. This card's actually really, really cool for the deck. So it's 1 tuner plus 1/1 non-tuner, so it is generic, and it is a tuner itself. So during the main phase, you get to send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the difference in the original levels of that monster. And this card... when your zombie monster is destroyed by battle, while this card is in the graveyard, you get to special summon it but banish it when it leaves the field. Only use each effect once per turn. Now, obviously, the idea about this is the level manipulation can sometimes come up and be quite important, but it also is not the end of the world because this does then give you the ability, should you want to go into a Halifibrax, so you're not at all lost in exactly what you're trying to get to or where you're trying to go. We'll then continue on. So these are your boss monsters. We've got 3 level 10s at the moment. So you've got the Baron de Fleur. Don't worry, I'll show you a cheap alternative. We've got the 1 Chijin. Now, I actually really like this in this deck because you actually banish a heck of a lot. Just imagine, like, you've got this on the board. You're already banishing a lot. He's reducing your opponent's monsters and increasing himself and your monsters. And then not to mention, you then get the ability to activate Snow, making him stronger, your opponent weaker. And then you get to trigger his effect in order to then banish from your opponent's graveyard and their field. So I just think that's incredibly powerful and such a really good card for this deck. We've then got the brand new Red Eye Zombie. I love this card. This card's great. It combos off better with your Felgrand, which will probably be a replacement for the Baron or a replacement for the second Necro, but I'll get to that in a second. So this one is during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you target a zombie monster in your graveyard, except itself, and special summon it. So keep in mind that either of these in the graveyard will be zombies. You can actually bring either of these back, which is great, because if you've used your negate and then they kill the Baron, you then go, okay, cool, Zombie Dragon, bring it back. And that's what makes this deck kind of cool, is the fact that it can get to multiple level 10s in a turn can be very, very damaging. You can actually get to a level 10 during your turn and then get to a level 10 during your opponent's turn, which is crazy good. If this card is in the graveyard, you get to banish a zombie monster you control to special summon this card. You can only use each effect once per turn. So that's really kind of cool as well, because again, it lets you cycle it back. Now, 2 cards that I'm missing from this extra deck, or I haven't put into the extra deck, that I would advise you actually looking into, is first off, the Felgrand Dragon. So this one is, if it is special summoned, you get to target a monster your opponent controls or in the graveyard and banish it. If a monster or monsters is special summoned from either graveyard while this monster is on the field, except during a damage step, you get to target one other face-up monster on the field and negate its effects. So you can kind of see the synergy between these two, that you get into the level 8, you then get rid of it, get it to the graveyard, make this can use its effect to bring it back, and then it will constantly be able to banish. But that's where I've got the Duke in place of it, for the pure fact that they do pretty much the same job, but I feel that this is more easily controlled than this is. Another card that I'd advise you guys looking into and worth picking up is the Navy Dragon Mech. Now, the reason this is so good is that you can synchro summon it during your opponent's turn with Halifibrax, moving into one of your level 7s. The reason that this works so well is if this card is special summoned, you get to target face-up cards your opponent controls up to a number of tuners in your graveyard. Negate their effects until the end of this turn. If this synchro summon card is destroyed by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you get to target a tuner in the graveyard and add it to the hand. Now, obviously, this one would require a little bit of a different strategy and a bit of a different setup, for the pure fact that you're then going to be able to make sure you've got enough tuners in the graveyard. You've then got to make sure that you're working towards a level 9 synchro rather than a level 10, which is actually a lot easier to do, which is why we are playing 3 of them. So that's it for the extra deck. I'm now going to take you through the very simple 2-card combo just to give you a starter of what this deck can do and where it goes. Okay, so this is the basic 2-card combo. So what this basically is Ready Fusion or Instant Fusion, and then Mizuki is the ideal scenario. If you can't get to Mizuki, another level 4 could be just as good. Like a Gozuki can get the job done just as much for you, and so can a Banshee, because you'll see out the combo that these are the parts that you want to be sending to the graveyard. So you're going to activate your Ready Fusion. You're straight away then going to be able to summon out your Vanity. You'll then be able to normal summon your Mizuki. So this is quite ideal with where you're trying to go from here. You're then going to sync these together. It needs to be a level 4 because you're going to be going into a level 6 Synchro. So you're going to be going into the Immortal Dragon. You'll then be able to use Immortal Dragon's effect. Now, because I'm playing Snow in this build, I would actually want to be sending the Gozuki because you're basically trying to put more options in the graveyard for you to get going. But you can also just go straight up and send the Necro Banshee. It does the exact same thing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to send the Gozuki from the deck to the graveyard, and then you're going to use the effect of Mizuki in the graveyard to banish itself, and then summon back the Gozuki. Now, this is where it gets interesting because you'll then use the Gozuki effect. Again, if you've already got something like Necro or Banshee in hand, or if you've got the ability, you can start sending like Foolish Burial and everything like that. You're good to go and choose other options. Then use Gozuki's effect to send Banshee from the deck to the graveyard. We're going to banish the Banshee to give you the Zombie World. You're going to activate the Zombie World. That just guarantees that when you make your following plays, you're going to be good to rock and roll and get everything you need. So you're then going to link these two together, as one is a tuner, one is a non-tuner, but even if they're both tuners, it really doesn't matter. And you're going to go into your Crystron Halifibrax. You're then going to be able to use Crystron Halifibrax's effect. If you do get an extender or have an extender off of Gozuki as well, you also then get the ability to banish the zombie monster from your graveyard, accept himself, and special summon that zombie from the hand. But because we don't, we're just going with the bare bones of exactly what we have. We'll show you exactly what this gets you to. So your Halifibrax then summons out your Glow Up Bloom. You then link the Glow Up Bloom off and turn that into a Link Karibo. You'll then link the Link Karibo. You'll trigger off the Glow Up Bloom. The Glow Up Bloom will then give you a Border Rock. Again, if you've already got Border Rock or you've already got a route to him, you can then decide to special summon out your Chenzing, obviously your Asgul as well, just to give you that protection in the graveyard. It's entirely up to you. But we're going to act that we don't have access to the Border Rock already, and we're going to go this way anyway. Link 2, this is going to give you straight into your Vampire Sucker. Again, if you've got an additional Mizuki, if you've got an additional extender, anything like that, you'll then be able to replenish your hand this turn and get an additional +1, but we're going to be going during our opponent's turn anyway. So then what you want to do here is you want to pass it to your opponent, and what's going to happen is straight away is during the draw phase, or standby phase, sorry, the Border Rock is going to come back because Zombie World is on the field. That will then trigger Vampire Sucker to give you a draw 1. You'll then be able to trigger the Crystron Halifibrax effect to banish itself, summon out a Formula Synchron, and this will then give you a draw 2. You'll then be able to use the effect of Formula Synchron to sync itself with your Border Rock, ideally after you've already used this effect, otherwise it would be a bit null and void, and this can give you into a level 10. If you haven't used this effect yet, you can go straight into the Zombie Necro. The Zombie will then be able to bring back the Border Rock, and you've basically got your board set up there. Otherwise, the one you're probably going to want to be going to more times than not will be your Badon, for the pure fact you've then got your Omni Negate. Keep in mind as well that you'll still have 3 additional cards in your hand set ready to go. So you've basically just replenished your hand completely, and these can be additional traps, these can be additional hand traps, these can be additional involvement, they could be set super polys. You'll be good to rock and roll as you see fit. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. I hope this has given you a couple of options for your particular build. Like I said, there are so many zombie builds out there at this moment in time that it really comes down to personal preference, and if there's anything down to your local environment that you would like to change up or make a little bit different. But I still think the deck is incredibly good. If you wanted it to be a little bit cheaper, obviously the issue you then get is you lose your access to your Ready Fusion, but that's where I would arguably say you probably then want to use the Predator Plants, because then you would use your Predator Plant play as your normal summon. That will then ultimately get you to an Instant Fusion, plus give you a discard, and then as long as you're able to get to a Zombie World, those two can become Vampire Sucker. Obviously your Instant Fusion can provide the tuner you need to get into your Halifibrax, and your plays just get to go from there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, guys, as absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.